actual temperature is. The wind chill is what makes you feel cold. And last few days we've had wind chill ranging from minus 35 to minus 40. And that's why my bucket is half full of mud. Just freezes to it. You don't want to really break something pounding your bucket off to get the mud out, so it just kind of sits there. Sometimes I get into some real hard frosty ground and it kind of gnaws it off a bit. And eventually what we're going to do is set the bucket on fire. Literally set the bucket on fire. I'll take it off, mix some accelerants, usually diesel and motor oil, and use some scrap wood that we get from our, some of our pipe reels, and then throw a match in and let it burn for half an hour or so. While it burns, I'll use the cleanup bucket, do some backfilling and other stuff, and then it'll thaw with the mud because it's like 1.5 feet thick. You can see I changed my bucket teeth. Fuck, what the hell's wrong with this seat? I like the old spring ride seats almost better. This one's supposed to be an air seat, and I am not a big fan of it. Somewhere, they won't come and do it. They insist you bring it back to Winnipeg to do it. It's a piss poor attitude. So a lot of guys were going with John Deere. It's a John Deere excavator. It's the same as a Hitachi. It's just got a John Deere diesel sometimes, and depending what model, some still have these Isuzu or they have again, but the Isuzu diesels are way better on fuel. I think altogether a better motor. These things are noisy, they don't really sound very nice. John Deere motor is better on a farm tractor where they belong. With all this mud frozen in my bucket, it makes it quite heavy, so yesterday, the old trench was snaking back and forth things. Kept telling them something's not right, something's not right. Well, lo and behold, they never even measured the trench line properly. It's supposed to be on a 2.7 meters from the property stakes here, the little ones with the purple head on them, and they were 2.9 to 3.2. So finally they laid out a string like they should have, put a string line out and then measured from that. Wrapped the string around each stake, so, you know, just single wrap, get it relatively tight, and then measure your 2.7. topsoil underneath here. Some places when I get to the bottom of my trench, I am right at black dirt. Usually that gets stripped and then the topsoil gets screened and recycled for landscaping the houses in the new subdivision after. At the builder's cost, of course. Things tend to get done pretty cheaply. I always sweep all these chunks in because otherwise when we're laying all our product out in a trench and the guys are walking beside the trench, they don't end up tripping. Falling in. It's not very deep, it's about 4 feet. Can't wait to get this bucket emptied properly. Yesterday was sunnier out, so all I could see was steam and black when I looked in the trench, so I would grab a little bit of snow, sprinkle it in, and then I could see the bottom, so I knew if I was going deep enough, so I could see how I was cleaning up the bottom. There's going to be a service there, so I leave that open, and then after I'm done digging the trench, I come back and I dig a small trench about the length of the bucket into the bank there, and then they'll put a wooden box in there, and they'll have a couple cables for the telephone and the power, and then there'll be another box. We call them chute boxes, that's what they are. And the other one will have a single gas service in it, like natural gas service, a half-inch piece of plastic pipe, half-inch diameter. I think it's half-inch, something like that. It's skinny. Thing that pisses me off the most about working in winter, because I gotta walk on pavement from time to time, we can't weld grousers, so I have a little more traction on the frosty ground or slippery icy ground, so I always have problems with slipping and sliding. So sometimes what I can do, like what I'm doing here, is I grab some of these frozen chunks that I've broken out, up against the track, sort of like chalking your wheels on a trailer. Helps a little bit. And then I start scoring the ground like this. The teeth I had on before, those flat chisels, are no fucking good for this. But these frost teeth are perfect. They work fantastic in clay. Now I end up with a pile in front of my tracks that I eventually have to sort of clamp frost, they don't really scarify enough, whereas these are split like a fork, and you get a little more scarifying. You concentrate some of the weight of the machine onto those little points, and then they rip a little bit better. They actually clean up the bottom of the trench a little bit better too. Sorry about all the bouncing around. Frost really does go down around here, it's going to be hard as fucking concrete because this ground is so wet. Hopefully we'll be long gone by that time. We've had very little labor power on this job. I've had to help them do lots of labor because we just have no manpower. The guy there that trenches our only labor. The other guys are fusers, pipe fitters, whatever the fuck they want to call themselves. Yeah, I think they just call themselves fusers, and technically they're not laborers, but you're not an operator to me, you're a laborer. And anyway, everybody's had to help with this stuff, and it just goes so slow. I don't know where everything goes. I'm here to dig holes. Fill them in. That's my main purpose here. So that pile that I pulled against my tracks earlier, I'm sitting right on top of it now. I use the bottom of the bucket. Use the bottom of the bucket basically just to clean the bottom of the trench so it's relatively smooth for them to walk on. I actually make the trench a little bit wider, and there's always a little bit extra room. If you make it absolutely bucket width, there's always problems. Some of these guys are kind of dingbats, and they're like, oh, how come you don't make it just bucket width? Well, I go, because then you guys always end up with problems. You don't have enough room, elbow room, or anything like that. If I make it a little bit wider, then you guys never complain. So stop complaining anyways. Actually kills some of the steam. That's good. As long as they're able to walk through it comfortably. So take a big chunk out of the bank here so I can start making some steps into there. Wherever there's a service, I put steps in. Last week we got a fair bit of snow. You probably saw some of those videos I posted, or a video, and it was snowing pretty hard. Well, it was like that for most of the week. And then, typical Western Canada, it got cold, really cold. Our second last trench on this project to do, and I hope we get started on the other one soon before the frost gets really deep. Love these teeth. I can do steps half decently. They're never all that perfect, but the guys really like them. I used to work with a fella many years ago when I first started running these machines, and I was working in sewer and water construction in Edmonton, Alberta, and we would be doing services, where you have your little water line, your sewer line that goes to each house, and he would make the nicest steps into the trench. He was an old pipeline operator, and probably the best mainline operator I've ever seen. I've never seen anybody better. And I've seen some really good operators for that. And he would do these steps that you'd swear you could roll down roll a red carpet down. 13 years later, I'm doing this kind of work. I try to make really nice steps. I mean, with a toothed bucket, it's a little bit harder. If I have a smooth edge, I can make some pretty nice ones. But nowhere ditches were well over 10 meters in depth. You have 2 or 3 backhoes digging, one in the bottom, one on the pile, sometimes an extra one to throw it back. So our biggest machines there were an 866 Corey, but they were starting to retire those in favor of 450s. They had Samsung 450s when I was there. Bought a Cat 345B. So that's how long ago that was. Now they called it 349, and it's an ugly piece of shit of a machine. I don't know if it's a piece of shit, but it's ugly. That's another old beast. Fuck, could they dig. They're getting worn out by that time, but they could dig. Come on. It's only December. Wait to set this bucket on fire. I don't know what the hell's with my steam. This keeps changing itself. Anyway, that's good enough.